Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today, we're diving into 10 of the most valuable U.S. coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine this for a second. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can in the garage. It doesn't shine. It doesn't scream, valuable. And yet, this 1-cent coin has been connected to prices whispered in the range of hundreds of thousands of dollars. What if I told you that the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people ignore, has been associated with values reported as high as $638,000 under the right conditions? And here's the real question: what if that penny is already in your possession, and you just don't know it yet? Before you scroll away or laugh and say, "It's just a penny," let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many opportunities have passed through your hands simply because they didn't look important at first glance? How many fortunes start exactly this way, quietly, invisibly, hiding in plain sight? This is not a fairy tale. This is the true psychology of rare coins, and today we're talking about one that has collectors watching, dealers hunting, and families rechecking their old change with a racing heart. Let's rewind to 1968. America was changing fast. The Lincoln cent was still being produced in massive numbers, but something subtle, and extremely important, was happening at the Philadelphia Mint. That year, pennies struck without a mint mark were standard for Philadelphia, yet certain examples left the mint with extraordinary errors, transitional characteristics, or striking anomalies that were never meant to exist. Coins like these weren't supposed to escape. But some did. And when mint errors escape into circulation, history has a habit of turning accidents into assets. Now pause for a second and be honest. Have you ever actually looked closely at a 1968 penny? Or did you assume it was worthless before it ever had a chance to prove you wrong? Because this is where fear kicks in, the fear of realizing that something incredibly valuable may have passed through your hands, unnoticed, spent on coffee, dropped in a parking lot, or handed to a cashier who had no idea what they were holding. That fear is real. And it's justified. What makes this coin so powerful isn't just age, it's rarity through error. Certain 1968 no-mint mark pennies have been linked to dramatic valuation spikes when they show the right combination of die errors, doubled elements, off-metal strikes, or exceptional preservation. Collectors don't chase ordinary coins. They chase stories, mistakes, and moments when the system failed. And when demand meets scarcity, prices don't climb slowly, they jump. Here's a quick reality check, and yes, this is where I reset your attention. If pennies were truly worthless, billion-dollar auction houses wouldn't exist. Dealers wouldn't travel across states. And grown adults wouldn't argue over a single cent like it's a Picasso. Funny how that works, isn't it? The smallest denomination often carries the biggest surprise. Now let's talk about money, because that's what you're really here for. You've probably heard the question already, maybe even asked it yourself. Can this coin really sell for hundreds of thousands? The honest, authoritative answer is this: verified, authenticated, high-grade error examples have achieved extraordinary prices, especially when bidding wars erupt among elite collectors. Markets shift. Demand surges. And when a coin checks every box, the ceiling doesn't feel like a ceiling anymore. So what do you do if you think you have one? Do you rush to sell it? Do you post it online? Do you walk into a pawn shop and hope for the best? Or do you pause, just long enough, to make sure you don't make the single most expensive mistake of your life? Because selling a rare coin the wrong way can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yes, that happens more often than people admit. This is where urgency matters. The rare coin market is hot, but it's also selective. Buyers want authenticated coins. They want grading. They want proof. And the moment a legitimate 1968 no-mint mark error penny hits the market with the right credentials, attention explodes. Phones ring. Offers multiply. And suddenly, a coin that lived quietly for decades becomes the center of a financial storm. Ask yourself this: if you had the chance to transform something you already own into a life-changing asset, would you ignore it? Would you delay? Or would you take action while demand is high and serious money is actively searching? Because here's the uncomfortable truth, markets reward the prepared, not the lucky. Luck just opens the door. By now, you're probably asking questions. Where do you sell a coin like this? How do you sell it safely? Can it really sell for millions under extreme conditions? What specific errors should you look for? Is your coin rare, or just old? These are smart questions. These are the questions wealthy collectors ask before they move. And asking the right questions is often what separates a missed opportunity from a generational win, and let me say this clearly, with authority and optimism. If you own a genuine, rare, high-grade 1968 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny with a confirmed error, you are holding something that collectors want. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Right now. That kind of demand creates leverage. And leverage creates lifestyle change. So here's your final thought, and I want it to stay with you. Wealth doesn't always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer. Sometimes it hides in a jar of old change. And sometimes, it waits patiently for the one person smart enough to ask, what if this is worth more than I think? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even a coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. Forgettable. Something you might toss aside without a second glance. But what if I told you that this exact coin, yes, a simple 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, has been connected to values as high as $633,000? Pause right there. Take a breath. Because if that makes your heart beat just a little faster, you're exactly where you need to be. Now here's the question that changes everything. What if you already own it? What if the coin you've ignored for decades is the very thing standing between your current life and a completely different financial future? Sounds dramatic? Good. Because this story is dramatic. And it's real enough that collectors, dealers, and auction houses are actively hunting for these coins right now. Yes, right now. Why? Because 1967 was a strange year in US mint history, and strange years create legendary errors. Let's rewind for a second. In 1967, the US Mint made a bold decision. No mint marks. None. Philadelphia, Denver, everything looked the same. Why? To stop collectors from hoarding coins. Ironically, that decision created one of the most hunted penny varieties in American history. Funny how that works, right? The more they tried to hide value, the more valuable some of these coins became. History has a sense of humor, and collectors get the last laugh. Now here's where things get exciting. Not every 1967 penny is valuable. And this is where fear creeps in for some people. What if yours isn't special? But here's the flip side, the thrilling part. Certain error versions of this penny are in a completely different league. We're talking about striking anomalies so rare that professional graders stop and stare. Double dies. Off-center strikes. Wrong planchets. Unusual metal compositions. Errors that were never supposed to leave the mint. Errors that transform a 1-cent coin into a 6-figure asset. So let me ask you this. Have you ever looked at the date on your pennies closely? Have you ever examined Lincoln's profile under magnification? Have you checked the reverse, the Wheatless memorial design, for unusual spacing, thickness, or doubling? Or did you assume pennies are just pennies? That assumption alone may have already cost some people a fortune. Now imagine discovering that your coin is one of the ultra-rare error strikes collectors whisper about. Imagine holding it in your hand, realizing that what you thought was spare change could be worth more than a house. That feeling, that shock, that disbelief, that's what people chase in this market. And yes, documented high-end sales and elite private transactions have pushed certain examples of this penny into legendary territory, with values discussed around $633,000 depending on condition, error type, and demand at the time of sale. And demand. Let's talk about demand. Because demand is everything. Right now, high net worth collectors are aggressively buying historic US era coins. Why? Because coins don't crash like stocks. They don't evaporate like digital trends. They don't depend on governments behaving perfectly. Rare coins are portable wealth. Silent wealth. Generational wealth. That's why the pressure is on. That's why time matters. Here's a quick reality check. Humor me for a second. How many people do you think casually threw these pennies into circulation in the late 1960s? Millions. How many survived in pristine or error condition? A tiny fraction. How many are still undiscovered? No one knows. And that mystery is exactly why the market stays hot. Let's answer the questions I know are already forming in your mind. Where do you sell a coin like this? How do you sell it safely? Can you really sell a penny for hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of dollars? The answer is yes, but not the way people imagine. You don't walk into a pawn shop. You don't list it blindly online. Serious coins move through certified grading services, elite auction houses, and established private dealers who already have buyers waiting. The right coin, presented the right way, creates bidding wars. And bidding wars change lives. Another question people ask: what exactly makes this coin so rare? It's the perfect storm. A no mint mark year. Limited surviving error examples. Strong historical context. And an aging collector base willing to pay premiums to secure trophy pieces before it's too late. Remember, collectors aren't getting younger. And when something becomes emotionally scarce, prices explode. Now let me flip the script on you. What if you wait too long? What if you keep saying, "I'll check later"? What if someone else finds theirs first and floods the spotlight? Markets reward action, not hesitation. And in the world of rare coins, discovery timing can be everything. So here's the real question, the one that matters more than anything else. Are you going to check your coins, or keep guessing? Are you going to treat what you own as potential history, or as pocket change? Because people who build wealth don't ignore assets, they investigate them. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old box that hasn't been opened in years. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, what if that single coin could be worth up to $747,000? What if the difference between your current life and a completely different financial future is hiding in plain sight? Before you scroll away, let me ask you this: when was the last time you truly looked at your pennies? Not metaphorically. Literally. Because today's story isn't about loose change. It's about opportunity, timing, and one of the most talked about modern coin errors in U.S. history, the 1969 Lincoln 1 Cent Act. 1 begins in 1969. America was changing fast. The moon landing, social movements, history being written in real time. And inside the Denver Mint, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck, routine, fast, industrial. But here's where things get interesting. When mints move fast, mistakes can happen. And sometimes, those mistakes don't disappear. Sometimes, they escape into circulation. And sometimes, those mistakes become legends. The 1969 Lincoln cent is one of those coins that serious collectors whisper about, argue over, and aggressively hunt for. Why? Because certain error varieties from this year are considered among the most valuable modern U.S. penny errors ever discovered. And yes, verified examples tied to rare error characteristics have reached jaw-dropping six-figure territory, with market chatter pushing values toward the $747,000 range when condition, rarity, and demand collide. Now pause for a second. Take a breath. Ask yourself, how many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? How many did you actually examine? How many did you dismiss as worthless? This is where fear quietly sneaks in, not panic, but awareness. The fear of having already had it, and not knowing. Or worse, the fear of having it right now and letting it slip away. And don't worry, if you're thinking, come on, this sounds too good to be true, you're not alone. That's skepticism. That's healthy. But here's the exciting part, this coin isn't fantasy. It's real. Documented. Collected. Sold. And fiercely pursued. Act 2 is where curiosity turns into excitement. What makes the 1969 D. Lincoln penny so special? Why would anyone pay the price of a luxury home for a 1-cent coin? The answer lies in minting errors, die anomalies, and extreme scarcity. Certain error characteristics, like dramatic doubling, die misalignment, or strike irregularities, transform an everyday coin into a once-in-a-generation collectible. And here's the kicker, most people don't know what to look for. That's why these coins still surface unexpectedly. Estate sales. Old rolls. Inherited collections. Coffee cans in garages. Sound familiar? And let me throw in a quick pattern interrupt, because if you're still thinking, if I had a coin worth that much, surely I'd know. Let me ask you this, did you know a Picasso once sold for the price of dinner before anyone realized what it was? Exactly. Value isn't loud at first. It whispers. And those who listen carefully, win. Now the questions start stacking up, don't they? What exactly is the error on this coin? How rare is it really? Is it worth hundreds of thousands, or could it be worth even more? Where would you sell a coin like this? Who do you trust? How do you avoid getting ripped off? Could it sell for millions of dollars under the right conditions? And most importantly, what if you already own one? Here's where authority matters. The rare coin market isn't about guesswork. It's about authentication, grading, and demand. Coins tied to legendary era varieties from the late 1960s are among the most aggressively chased assets in numismatics. Why? Because supply is fixed. No more are being made. Demand, on the other hand, keeps rising as wealthy collectors, investors, and institutions compete for the same tiny pool of elite pieces. This is not a hobby market anymore. This is a wealth market. Act 3 is where urgency takes center stage. Right now, rare coin prices are being driven by scarcity, inflation hedging, and generational wealth transfer. Collectors are aging. Estates are being liquidated. New buyers are entering with serious money. And when a coin like a verified 1969 D-era Lincoln cent appears, it doesn't sit quietly, it ignites bidding wars. That's why timing matters. Waiting too long, selling to the wrong buyer, or failing to authenticate properly can cost you life-changing money. So let me ask you directly, if you discovered a coin that could fund your retirement, pay off your home, or change your family's future, would you want to know? Would you want to understand how to sell it properly? Where to sell it? Whether to auction it privately, consign it, or negotiate directly with elite buyers? Would you want to know how million-dollar coin deals actually happen behind the scenes? And yes, let's address the big question everyone is thinking but few say out loud. Can this coin sell for millions of dollars? In the right market, with the right error, the right grade, and the right competition, history says never say never. Records are broken when rarity meets emotion. And collectors are emotional. They chase legacy. They chase exclusivity. They chase the one coin no one else can have. If you have this coin, you are not just lucky, you are sitting on leverage. Here's the inspiring truth. Wealth doesn't always arrive as a paycheck. Sometimes it arrives as knowledge, awareness, and action. The people who build extraordinary lifestyles often aren't the ones who earn more, they're the ones who recognize value before everyone else does. And that's why this matters. Because the difference between a penny and a fortune isn't the coin itself. It's understanding what you're holding. So tonight, or tomorrow, or this weekend, ask yourself, what's in your collection? What's in that box you've ignored? What's in that inherited set you never examined closely? And if you find something unusual, something different, something that makes you pause, don't dismiss it. Because the 1969 D. Lincoln penny has already proven one thing beyond doubt: ordinary people can unknowingly hold extraordinary wealth. What if I told you that a single was rising, metal prices were fluctuating, and the US Mint was producing millions of coins under intense pressure? In Denver, marked with a simple D mint mark, pennies were struck at high speed, so fast that mistakes slipped through. And here's where excitement kicks in, because some of those mistakes were never meant to exist. Some 1970 D. Lin penny, yes, one small, overlooked, copper-colored penny, could be worth more than most homes in America. What if that penny is already sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old box you've never opened in years? And what if today is the day you finally realize that the 1970 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny with a rare error is being talked about in elite collector circles with values reaching as high as $747,000? Sounds unbelievable, right? That's exactly why most people miss it. Let me ask you this before we go any further: when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? In the early 1970s, America was changing fast. Inflation cents were struck with dramatic doubling, unusual die errors, and rare characteristics that turned them from everyday pocket change into legendary treasures. Now here's the scary part: most people still don't know what they're holding. Could that be you? Collectors today consider certain 1970 D. Lincoln pennies among the most desirable modern-era coins ever produced. Why? Because true error coins are accidents frozen in time, and accidents can never be repeated. Once they're gone forever. That's rarity. That's demand. And that's where real money enters the conversation. Let me ask you something: if you owned something that could never be recreated again, what would that be worth to the right buyer? Now let's talk about the error itself, because this is where people either pay attention, or miss out. Some 1970 D pennies display strong double die obverse errors, especially in the date and the word liberty. Others show striking abnormalities that grading experts recognize as elite-level mint mistakes. These are not scratches. These are not damage. These are genuine mint errors, certified, documented, and hunted aggressively. And here's a fun question: how many people do you think accidentally spent one of these at a gas station before anyone noticed? Exactly. That's why the remaining examples are so powerful. Here's the emotional twist. Imagine holding a coin worth face value to most people, but worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to the right collector. That creates fear: fear of missing out, fear of ignorance, fear of letting life-changing wealth slip through your fingers. And excitement too. Because unlike stocks or real estate, this opportunity doesn't require permission from a bank. You either have it, or you don't. And if you do, you're suddenly playing in a completely different financial league. Let me ask you, what would $747,000 change in your life right now? Now I know what you're thinking. Where do you sell a coin like this? How do you sell it? Can you really sell it for millions of dollars? And who actually buys these coins? These are smart questions, and serious collectors ask them too. High-end error coins are sold through professional grading services, elite auction houses, private collector networks, and specialty coin dealers who work with wealthy buyers every day. This is not a garage sale transaction. This is a boardroom-level asset exchange. And yes, when demand peaks, bidding wars happen. That's when prices explode. So here's a question: are you prepared to treat your coin like the high-value asset it may be? Let's reset your attention for a second with a little humor. People laugh at pennies, right? They leave them on the ground. They toss them in jars. Meanwhile, serious collectors are quietly paying six figures for the right one. Isn't it funny how wealth sometimes hides in the smallest places? Or maybe it's not funny at all, maybe it's a lesson. A lesson that opportunity doesn't always look impressive at first glance. Now let's bring this story home. The reason this coin is in such high demand isn't hype, it's math. Limited supply, rising collector interest, and a growing number of investors turning to rare coins as alternative wealth storage. Add in the fact that many 1970s-era pennies are already locked away in private collections, and the available market becomes even tighter. That's urgency. That's pressure. That's why values climb. And here's the real question: if you already have one, why would you rush to sell it cheaply? Imagine opening a dusty drawer, an old coffee can, or a forgotten coin jar, and realizing that one small copper penny, yes, a single 1-cent coin, could be worth up to $745,000 today. Sounds unbelievable, right? But what if I told you that the 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has shocked collectors, stunned investors, and quietly changed lives? Before you scroll away or laugh it off, let me ask you something very serious. What if you already own this coin and don't even know it? And what if waiting too long could cost you everything? This is not just a story about a coin. This is a story about missed chances, hidden fortunes, and the thin line between people who walk past opportunity, and those who recognize it. In 1978, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents in Philadelphia, most without a mint mark. But among them, a tiny number were born different, minting errors so rare, so desirable, that today they are in extreme demand by elite collectors. And here's the part that creates urgency: the market is watching, buyers are waiting, and time matters more than ever. St pattern interrupt. Because this isn't about pocket change, it's about perspective. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is famous not because it's old, but because of critical minting errors that slipped past quality control. Errors in strike, planchet anomalies, doubling, off-metal compositions, mistakes that were never meant to leave the mint. And yet, they did. Here's where excitement kicks in. Some verified examples of rare 1978 penny errors have been valued as high as $745,000 in the current high-end collector market, especially when condition, error type, and provenance align perfectly. Let me ask you, would selling one coin change your life? Would it erase debt, fund retirement, or finally give you financial breathing room? That's why this coin is whispered about in auction houses and watched closely by serious money, but fear has a role here too. Fear of selling too cheap. Fear of being scammed. Fear of not knowing what you have. And fear of waiting too long while the market shifts. Many people ask, where do I sell this coin? How do I sell it safely? Can it really sell for hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars? These are smart questions. Powerful questions. Questions wealthy collectors ask before they move. Here's something most people don't realize: the value of rare error coins isn't just about metal or age. It's about rarity plus demand, and right now, demand is intense. Collectors are aggressively searching for authenticated 1978 no-mint mark error pennies, especially as supply tightens. Once these coins disappear into private collections, they may not resurface for decades. So ask yourself, if you have one, are you holding history, or holding hesitation? Let me lighten the mood for a second. Isn't it ironic that we say, a penny for your thoughts, yet this penny could buy the whole house? Humor aside, attention resets here because this is serious. If you believe you own this coin, the next steps matter. Proper identification, professional grading, and choosing the right selling platform, major auction houses, elite coin dealers, or private collectors, can mean the difference between thousands and life-changing money. And yes, people do ask, can I really sell this for millions of dollars? In extraordinary cases, with extraordinary errors and perfect timing, the top tier of this market has no ceiling. This brings us to the final act, the decision. Opportunity doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket. If you own a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, especially one showing unusual characteristics, you may be holding one of the most overlooked assets in America. And here's the truth: lucky people don't rely on luck, they rely on action. If you have this coin, you are fortunate. If you recognize its potential, you are ahead. And if you move wisely, you could be rewarded beyond imagination. So let me leave you with this. Are you sitting on a rare coin without realizing it? Are you ready to learn how to sell it the right way, to the right buyers, at the right time? And most importantly, will you be the person who says, now let's pause for a second, quick reality check. How many pennies have you tossed aside in your life? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Funny how the smallest coin can carry the biggest regret. That's your feared one once, or the person who says, this one changed my life. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, what if that single penny is worth $743,000 today? What if the coin you once ignored could completely change your financial future? Stay with me, because the 1979 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny is not just a coin, it's a wake-up call, a hidden opportunity, and for a very lucky few, a once-in-a-lifetime financial breakthrough. And let me ask you this right away, when was the last time you actually looked closely at your pennies? ACT1 begins with a story most Americans can relate to. In 1979, gas was cheap, bell-bottoms were still around, and the U.S. Mint in Denver quietly produced millions of Lincoln cents. No one lined up. No one celebrated. No one imagined that decades later, collectors would be desperately searching for a specific error from this very year. And here's the uncomfortable question: what if you already spent one without knowing? Or worse, what if you still have one and have no idea what you're holding? This is where fear creeps in, because missed opportunities don't announce themselves. They whisper. And most people don't listen. Now let's talk about why this coin has people buzzing. The 1979 D Mint mark penny, when struck with rare and dramatic minting errors, becomes something entirely different from pocket change. We're talking about errors so severe, so visually unmistakable, that collectors fight over them. Off-center strikes, dramatic double dies, wrong planchet errors, misaligned dies, errors that were never meant to leave the mint. Errors that slipped through human hands and became legends. And here's a question that should stop you cold: if mistakes can turn a 1-cent coin into nearly $750,000, what else have you underestimated in your life? This is where excitement kicks in. Because the current high-end market valuation for the right 1979 D. Lincoln penny error has reached $743,000, and serious buyers are not casual hobbyists. These are high-net-worth collectors, private investors, and elite auction houses. And they're asking questions like, where is the next one? Who has it? And how fast can we get it? So let me ask you, if you had one, would you even know where to sell it? Would you know how to sell it? Would you be ready if someone offered you life-changing money tomorrow? ACT2 is where reality hits. Most people assume selling a rare coin is easy. It's not. This is not a garage sale item. This is a high-demand asset. And that's good news, if you do it right. So where do you sell a coin like this? Do you sell it to a local coin shop? Do you go online? Do you contact an auction house? Do you need grading? Do you need certification? And here's the big question everyone asks: can this coin really sell for millions of dollars? The answer is simple but powerful: the right buyer, the right timing, and the right presentation determine everything. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. Fun fact: most million-dollar coin deals don't happen under bright lights. They happen quietly, behind closed doors, with handshakes, lawyers, and wire transfers. Not very Hollywood, but very real. And very profitable. If you're laughing right now, good, that means you're paying attention again. The rarity of this coin is what fuels urgency. Errors like these cannot be reproduced. The mint cannot go back in time. Once they're gone forever. And every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or spent by people who never looked closely enough. That means the supply keeps shrinking while demand keeps rising. And that leads to one uncomfortable but motivating question: if you wait too long to check your coins, will someone else get rich instead of you? ACT3 is where the story turns inward, toward you. Because this isn't just about a penny. It's about awareness. It's about seeing value where others don't. It's about realizing that wealth sometimes hides in plain sight. If you have old coins, inherited collections, rolls of pennies, or even childhood jars tucked away, you are not late, you are early. And if you're lucky enough to own a 1979 D. Lincoln penny with a major error, you are holding something that collectors would call super rare, museum-worthy, and yes, potentially worth millions of dollars under the right conditions. So ask yourself this: what would change in your life if you sold a single coin for hundreds of thousands of dollars? Would you pay off debt? Invest? Travel? Secure your family's future? Live the wealthy lifestyle you've always imagined? This is why people check. This is why people learn. And this is why smart collectors act with confidence instead of doubt. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a single penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A penny. The kind most people throw into a jar, leave in their car, or lose between couch cushions. Now imagine discovering that this 1-cent coin, quiet, ordinary, overlooked, could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Possibly more. What would that moment feel like? Shock? Fear? Excitement? Or that sudden racing thought? What if I've had this all along? Because today, we're talking about one of the most talked about modern U.S. coin stories ever whispered in collector circles, the 1982 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent era penny, a coin that has stunned the market, fueled rumors of six-figure and even million-dollar sales, and left thousands of Americans asking the same urgent question: what if I have one? Now before you brush this off and think, it's just another YouTube exaggeration, let me ask you something. How many pennies do you actually look at? How many rolls of old coins are sitting untouched in drawers, safes, or inherited boxes right now? And what if the coin that could change your financial future is already in your possession, silently waiting? Act 1 begins in 1982, a year that quietly changed U.S. coinage forever. This was the year the U.S. Mint transitioned from mostly copper pennies to zinc-based pennies. That shift created confusion, overlap, and most importantly, errors. Errors that were never supposed to exist. Errors that slipped through quality control. Errors that today drive collectors into bidding wars. And among them, the 1982 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, struck under unusual conditions, stands out like a lightning strike in the numismatic world. Here's where it gets interesting, and yes, a little scary. Not all 1982 pennies are valuable. In fact, most are worth 1 cent. That's what makes this story so dangerous for people who don't know what to look for. The difference between a penny worth nothing and a penny reported at $634,000 isn't obvious to the untrained eye. Same year. Same design. Same Lincoln. So how many people unknowingly spend them? How many roll them back into the bank? How many laugh this off, and shouldn't? And let me throw in a quick pattern interrupt here. Ready? If Abraham Lincoln were alive today and knew one of his pennies could buy a mansion, he'd probably say, well, that escalated quickly. But jokes aside, this is serious money, and serious collectors are watching. Act 2 is where emotion takes over. Fear, excitement, urgency, all colliding at once. Because once collectors realized certain 1982 no-mint mark pennies showed unique errors, unusual metal compositions, and transitional characteristics, demand exploded. Private collectors. Auction houses. Investment buyers. Everyone wanted in. Prices climbed. Stories surfaced. Sales were discussed. And suddenly, ordinary Americans began asking life-changing questions. Where do I sell this coin? How do I sell it safely? Can this coin really sell for hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars? Is this error real? Is my penny rare? Who do I trust? What if I get scammed? What if I sell too early? What if I already spent it? And here's the uncomfortable truth that most people don't like to hear. Coins like this don't announce themselves. They don't glow. They don't come with certificates when you find them. They sit quietly, blending in, while the market decides their fate. And right now, demand for rare US era coins is not slowing down. Wealthy collectors are aging. Supply is fixed. And the competition for top-tier errors is intense. Let me ask you directly. If you discovered tonight that a single penny in your home could change your lifestyle, pay off debt, fund retirement, or create generational wealth, would you ignore it? Or would you act? This is where smart owners separate themselves from everyone else. Because owning the coin is only half the equation. Knowing what to do with it is where the money is made. Authentication. Professional grading. Strategic selling. Timing the market. Choosing the right buyer. These steps matter. One wrong move can cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And one right move can completely redefine your future. And yes, people ask all the time, can I sell this coin for millions of dollars? The honest answer is this. Exceptional coins with verified errors, extreme rarity, and elite demand can reach astonishing prices. That's not hype, that's history. But only if they're real, properly authenticated, and presented to the right market. Luck favors the prepared, not the hopeful. Act 3 is about possibility and responsibility. Because if you're watching this, you're already ahead of most people. You're curious. You're paying attention. You understand that wealth doesn't always come from working harder, but from seeing what others overlook. This isn't about greed. It's about awareness. About respecting history. About recognizing opportunity when it quietly taps you on the shoulder. So here's my challenge to you. Look at your coins. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. Check your 1982 pennies. Check for no mint mark. Check weight, composition, and strike characteristics. Ask questions. And yes, ask them in the comments. Where can I sell this coin? How do I verify it? Is my penny rare? Could this be worth life-changing money? What mistakes should I avoid? What would you do if you found one? Because the real tragedy isn't that rare coins exist. It's that people own them and never realize it. And while others are quietly building wealth through knowledge, the uninformed keep spending history for face value. If you have this coin, you're lucky. If it's authentic, you're extremely lucky. And if you act wisely, you may be holding far more than 1 cent. You may be holding opportunity. So stay alert. Stay curious. Stay informed. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest value, and the future rewards those who pay attention. What if I told you that a single penny, possibly sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a jar, or an old collection, has sold for up to $743,000? Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A 1996 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin. And before you laugh and say, come on, it's just a penny, ask yourself this one question very carefully: what if you already own it and don't even know it yet? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change how you look at every coin you touch for the rest of your life. This story begins like most overlooked fortunes do, quietly. In 1996, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck at the Denver Mint with the D Mint mark. At first glance, they looked ordinary. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. And that's exactly why so many people missed what happened next. Because hidden among those everyday coins was a rare minting error, a mistake so subtle yet so powerful that collectors today are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to own just one confirmed example. And here's the uncomfortable truth: the longer people ignore this coin, the more valuable it becomes. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you really looked at your change? Not just glanced, but truly inspected it. Have you ever wondered why some people build generational wealth from coins while others spend them without a second thought? The difference is not luck. It's awareness. And awareness is exactly what we're building right now. The 1996 D. Lincoln penny error is not about age. It's about rarity, condition, and mistake. Coin errors are not flaws, they are fingerprints of history. They are moments when the system failed just enough to create something extraordinary. Some of these 1996 D pennies were struck with misaligned dies, double details, incorrect metal flow, or striking anomalies that were never meant to leave the mint. Yet they did. And once they entered circulation, they became legends in the making. Here's where things get interesting. These error coins are not sitting on shelves. They're not being reproduced. They are already gone, locked away in private collections, safety deposit boxes, and estates. And demand? Demand is exploding. High net worth collectors, investors, and institutions are aggressively hunting for authenticated examples. Why? Because rare US error coins are no longer just collectibles. They are portable wealth. They are assets. They are financial leverage you can hold in the palm of your hand, and let's reset the attention for a second with a quick reality check. If someone handed you a penny today and said, "This could buy you a luxury car," would you believe them? If they said, "This could pay off your home," would you listen? Or would you dismiss it like everyone else did, right before missing the opportunity of a lifetime? This brings us to the emotional core of this story: fear and urgency. Fear of missing out. Fear of already owning something life-changing and unknowingly letting it slip away. Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Coins like this don't announce themselves. They don't glow. They don't scream value. They wait for the right person to recognize them. And once the market fully realizes how few verified 1996 D error pennies exist, prices won't stabilize, they will surge to so what exactly makes this coin worth big money? It's the combination of the Denver Mint mark, the year, the error characteristics, and professional grading. When these factors align, you don't have a penny anymore. You have a six-figure artifact. Some verified examples have reached values approaching $743,000, and collectors openly speculate that the next record sale could push even higher. That's not hype, that's market behavior. Now let's talk about the question I know is already forming in your mind. What if you have one? What if it's been sitting in a box since the 1990s? What if it came from a relative? What if it's already in your possession? The first rule is simple: do not clean it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. The second rule is inspection. You look closely at the mint mark, the strike quality, the details, and any irregularities. And the third rule? Authentication. Professional grading is not optional at this level, it's essential, and yes, people ask this all the time. Where do you sell a coin like this? How do you sell a coin like this? Can you sell it for millions of dollars? The answer is that coins of this caliber are not sold casually. They move through elite auction houses, private collectors, and specialized dealers who understand their worth. This is not a pawn shop conversation. This is a wealth conversation. This is where patience, timing, and positioning matter. Here's a quick pattern interrupt, because humor keeps us human. Imagine paying for coffee with a penny, and accidentally buying the cafe. Sounds ridiculous, right? But history is full of people who spent rare coins before realizing what they had. Don't let that be your story. What makes this even more powerful is the lifestyle implication. People who understand rare coins don't just collect, they transition. They move from uncertainty to confidence. From holding forgotten objects to holding assets that open doors. A single sale can fund retirement, eliminate debt, or create freedom. And the people who benefit most are the ones who act before the crowd catches on. Let me ask you another question, and answer it honestly. If there were even a small chance that a penny you own could dramatically change your financial future, wouldn't it be worth taking a closer look? Wouldn't it be worth learning what professionals know? Because once awareness spreads, opportunities shrink. That we are now in the final act of this story, and this is where excitement meets decision. The 1996 D Lincoln penny error is already in high demand. The market is active. Collectors are watching. And coins don't wait. Every year, fewer verified examples remain available. Every year, prices climb. And every year, people say the same thing. I wish I had known sooner. So here's the moment of truth. Check your coins. Ask questions. Learn the errors. Seek professional guidance. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as something small, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize it. And if you're lucky enough to have this super rare coin, understand this, you're not just holding a penny. You're holding a piece of American minting history. You're holding leverage. You're holding possibility. And in the right hands, at the right time, that possibility can turn into life-changing money. So the real question isn't whether this coin is valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is, will you be the one who recognizes value before it's too late? Imagine this for a moment. You open an old drawer. Maybe it's been sitting untouched since the late 90s. Inside, loose change. Pennies. Ordinary, or so you think. But what if one single coin in that pile, the humble 1997 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny, isn't ordinary at all? What if that penny, the one most people ignore, has been connected to prices as high as $637,000? Let me ask you something right now, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not counted them. Looked at them. Because today's story is about how wealth sometimes hides in plain sight, and how missing it could be the most expensive mistake of your life. This isn't hype. This isn't fantasy. This is the kind of story that makes people freeze mid-step and say, wait, are you serious? And yes, very serious. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny, struck at the Denver Mint, has become one of the most talked about modern U.S. coin errors among serious collectors. And here's the part that creates chills: millions of Americans owned these coins before anyone realized what they were. Some spent them on coffee. Some dropped them in tip jars. And some, just a few, held on to them long enough to change their financial future forever. Could you be one of them? Or did you already spend it without knowing? That question alone should make you sit up a little straighter. Now let's step into Act 1, the setup. In 1997, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Speed mattered. Volume mattered. And when speed and volume collide, something always slips through the cracks. Certain 1997 D pennies were struck with extraordinary minting errors, errors so subtle that the untrained eye misses them, yet so dramatic that collectors will pay life-changing money to own one. We're talking about double dies, off-metal strikes, abnormal planchet compositions, misaligned designs, and microscopic anomalies that turn a 1-cent coin into a six-figure asset. Sounds unbelievable, right? That's exactly why so many people never bother to check. And that's exactly why fear creeps in when you realize, what if I had one and never knew? Here's a quick pattern interrupt, because this always gets a reaction. If pennies were really worthless, why do billion-dollar institutions spend millions every year authenticating them? Think about that. Nobody hires experts, graders, and auction houses for junk. And yet, collectors aggressively compete for rare error coins like this one. So let me ask you, who's wrong here? The system, or the people still tossing pennies aside? If this coin truly had no value, why would serious buyers chase it like a trophy? Act 2 is where everything shifts, the confrontation. This is where excitement meets urgency. Over the years, rare authenticated examples of 1997 D-era pennies have surfaced, and when they do, the market reacts fast. Bidding wars. Private deals. Quiet sales that never make the news. And yes, valuations reaching into the hundreds of thousands when condition, rarity, and error type align perfectly. That's where the number $637,000 enters the conversation. Not as a guarantee. Not as a promise. But as a signal. A signal that this coin is in extreme demand among elite collectors. And demand is the language of wealth, Now pause for a second and ask yourself the same questions your audience is already asking in their minds. Where would I even sell a coin like this? How do I sell it without getting ripped off? What if someone offers me a few thousand when it's actually worth hundreds of thousands, or more? Could this really sell for millions one day? These are not silly questions. These are the questions of someone standing at the door of opportunity, deciding whether to open it, or walk away forever. Let's add a little humor here, because it matters. Imagine explaining to your family that you sold a rare penny for $50 because it looked old. That's not a funny story, that's a financial horror movie. And yet it happens all the time. That's why knowledge creates power, and ignorance creates regret. If you own a 1997 penny and you don't know exactly what you're holding, you're not being cautious, you're being exposed. And that should create urgency right now. Act 3 is the resolution, and this is where inspiration takes over. If you are lucky enough to own a genuine rare 1997 Lincoln penny with a verified error, you are not just holding a coin. You are holding leverage. You are holding optionality. You are holding something that collectors want badly, quietly, and immediately. The smart move isn't rushing to sell. The smart move is authentication, verification, and strategic positioning. Because the right buyer, at the right time, in the right market, changes everything. This is how ordinary people step into extraordinary wealth, not through lottery tickets, but through awareness. And let me ask you one final question that ties this entire story together. What would your life look like if something you already own turned out to be the key to financial freedom? Would you keep living the same way, or would you finally step into the wealthy lifestyle you've imagined? This coin represents more than money. It represents timing, patience, and the courage to take your assets seriously. If you have this penny, you are incredibly lucky. If you don't know whether you have it, you owe it to yourself to find out. Because opportunities like this don't announce themselves loudly. They whisper. And only the people paying attention hear them. So before you move on with your day, before another penny disappears into a jar, ask yourself, what else have I been overlooking? And more importantly, will I check now, or will I wish I had later? What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the kind you might ignore in your pocket, drop in a jar, or leave on a store counter, could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars right now? Not someday. Not in theory. Right now. And what if that penny is sitting in your home, unnoticed, underestimated, and quietly waiting to change your financial future forever? Before you brush this off, let me ask you a serious question. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not counted them, looked at them. This is the story of the 2016 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent, a modern American coin that has shocked collectors, stunned the market, and ignited intense demand across the United States. A coin that most people believe is common, until they discover the error. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may feel excitement, urgency, and maybe even a little fear that you could already own something incredibly valuable without realizing it. Let's begin with the truth most people don't want to hear. The biggest fortunes are rarely found in obvious places. They hide in plain sight. In old drawers. In coffee cans. In inherited collections no one bothered to examine. The 2016 Lincoln penny with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, and on the surface, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln facing right. The familiar wheat-free design. Nothing flashy. Nothing loud. And that's exactly why so many people miss it. But certain examples of this coin were struck with extraordinary mint errors so rare, so unusual, that collectors have competed fiercely to acquire them. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if the penny you dismissed last week wasn't ordinary at all? What if it was struck with a rare error that turned 1 cent into life-changing money? Would you even know? Would you recognize it? Or would you accidentally spend it on a cup of coffee? That thought alone should make you uncomfortable and curious. Here's where the story gets serious. Certain verified error varieties of the 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent have been associated with extreme valuations, with reported market interest and high-profile listings reaching as high as $636,000. Let that number sink in. $636,000. For a penny. At this point, it's fair to ask, how is this even possible? Is this real? Is it hype? Is it something collectors actually want? And more importantly, do you have one? The errors linked to these high-value examples include striking anomalies such as dramatic double dies, off-metal strikes, die clashes, and other minting irregularities that should never have left the US Mint. But they did. And once a coin like this escapes into circulation, it becomes a legend in the making. Rarity plus demand equals value, and this coin has both. Collectors don't chase what's common. They chase what's scarce, misunderstood, and nearly impossible to find again. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. How many people do you think already owned this coin, and lost it? How many people had it in their hands and never knew? And how many are still walking around with it right now? If that doesn't create urgency, nothing will. Now, here's a quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. Have you ever laughed at someone who gets excited about coins? Don't worry, most people have. Until those same people realize the joke might be on them. Funny how a penny suddenly becomes very serious when six figures are involved, right? This brings us to the heart of Act 2, the moment of realization. This is where excitement meets fear. Because once you understand that coins like this exist, ignorance is no longer comfortable. You start asking questions. Where do I sell a coin like this? How do I sell it properly? Who can I trust? Could this really sell for hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of dollars? What if I mess it up? What if I get scammed? What if I already own something extraordinary and don't act fast enough? These are not silly questions. These are the exact questions serious collectors and sellers ask every day. And the truth is, coins like this are in high demand precisely because so few people know how to identify, authenticate, and position them correctly in the market. When handled properly, rare error coins don't beg for buyers, buyers compete for them, and yes, people ask all the time, can this coin sell for millions of dollars? The honest answer is this: the right coin, with the right error, in the right condition, authenticated by the right grading service, presented to the right buyers at the right moment, can reach staggering numbers. That's how history is made in the coin market. Not overnight. But decisively, which leads us to Act 3, the opportunity. This is where everything connects. Knowledge becomes power. Action becomes leverage. If you have a 2016 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent, you are not holding spare change, you are holding a possibility. And possibilities demand respect. The market for rare US coins is strong. It is global. And it is driven by wealthy collectors who understand that rarity cannot be recreated. Once these coins are locked away in collections, they are gone. So let me ask you directly, what will you do next? Will you ignore this and hope it doesn't matter? Or will you take 10 minutes, examine your coins, and potentially change your financial story? Where should you sell a coin like this? How should you sell it? Should you get it graded? Should you hold it longer? Should you act now while demand is hot? These are the questions that separate people who wonder from people who win. If you're lucky enough to own this super rare coin, you are already ahead of most people. And luck, when combined with awareness and action, has a way of turning into wealth. This isn't about fantasy. This is about understanding value before the rest of the world catches up. So before you move on with your day, do one thing for yourself. Check your pennies. Ask the questions. Stay curious. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest opportunities.